Okay. Well, again, this is being recorded, so we'll just give a good break here. All right. Okay, welcome everybody to the FastPay webinar. We're here today with Melissa Spitzer-Johnson from FastPay. So I'll do my part telling you how we can get FastPay, set up to basically then send things to FastPay for them to, deal with the payments on their side. Okay. So let me go ahead and just start sharing my screen for now. And the nice thing about the FastPay integration is really it's your workflow in Workamajig really does not change. Of course, there's going to be some setup, okay? But again, we're not going to discuss the intricacies of that. Of course, if you decide to use FastPay, we can talk about that integration, how you get it set up. For the most part, again, in Workamajig, really no difference in your workflow. So I happen to have some vendor invoices that are ready to pay, right? So I enter in my vendor invoices as usual. They have a due date. I come into my today purchasing, to pay as of a particular date. I click on those vendor invoices, okay? I make a decision of, okay, which ones do I want to select? There we go. I say pay. I come over to here and I just happen to, I have mine separated out, but again, I'm selecting what cash account does it come out of, okay, if it's not my default. And then I'm simply saying generate the payments, okay? And that has now gone into a location that FastPay can see, and then we'll start to pull in that information for you, okay? So pretty straightforward from the Workamajig side. So now I can turn it over to Melissa and she can talk about what happens next. Does that work?
Great. Yep. Perfect.
Okay. So let me go ahead and stop sharing for me. I'll stop the share and then you can go ahead and.
Perfect. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. Great. So the payments flow over to our system from Workamajig. It comes over through an API call. As he mentioned, we don't have to talk about the actual setup piece yet, but it is a very simple two-step process to do the setup. The process for issuing your payments is as easy as what you just saw, which was go through your process, select the FastPay cash account, and they will come over to our platform. And this is exactly what it looks like when it lands in our platform. You will be notified via an email proactively. It is immediate, so you don't have to wait very long for those payments to flow to your, into this system with your account access. So you'll get a notification in your email that says you have some payments, and you can log in and review those payments here. I'm going to hop over here just to show you an approvals. If you did want to set up approvals on your workflow, if you wanted a second step to basically say, hey, I want to check those payments that just came over from Workamajig, you can do that here and you can check the payments individually. You can check them on an invoice level, or you can approve the whole batch. So we do have an approval workflow for multiple users if you needed that. So going back over to the specific payments from Workamajig, I can see they decisioned into a couple different payment methods here. The payment methods that we cover are virtual cards, we do check mailing, and then we also have enhanced ACH in our product. And if I click into this particular payment batch, which is what you saw in the Workamajig side, you can see the detail of those payments in this platform. So you can see the same information that flows over from Workamajig. Again, all of this information flows over from that system. So in this one happens to be a pending credit card. You can see the payment date, the check date here, the check number, the check amount. So this, again, is all information from Workamajig. If it's one that's going to be mailed out, we also pull in the address here. So it's from your system. It's mailing with your information, with your customer name as well. So all of that is pulled over. Now to go into a little bit more detail, I can show you some payments that have gone a little bit further in the process. So this is our payments request view. This shows you everything that you have sent out from our system. you can see ones that I'm going to move to a posted state just so you can see some payments that are in here. These ones happen to be enhanced ACH payments that went over to a supplier that received a deposit from your company. So you can see it's affiliated with a large batch of payments. You can see the total amount of those payments, and all that information is detailed here. If you also needed to see a proof of payment, that's another question that we get a lot, which is, how do I know if the payment made it to its destination? You can download a payment confirmation. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Hopefully it's not too slow as I'm sharing here.
And just as a reminder for everybody, down below, there's a chat box and there's also an online question and answer. So if you have any questions, feel free to put those in or put it into the chat, either location. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then here you can see this is a downloadable PDF for all of your payments that go out on FastPay's behalf. And you can see proof of payment, meaning it made it to its destination. In this case, because it's an enhanced ACH, you can see the account number that it was deposited into, see the invoice detail. So all of that is there as well. That is available for those payment types. It's also available for credit cards as well. So here's a sample of a credit card that was processed. You can see the posting date, authorized date, same concept. I don't need to download it again, but you get a payment confirmation on that as well. And you can see the detail related to this payment and if it was associated with any other payments as well. So that gives you more detail. We also have reconciliation backup documents if you need to see that as well. So we'll come over here. I don't know if I have any in my sample. I don't. This is where your files would be for your backup reconciliation documentation for those payments that went out. And that is, for the most part, how this process works. I can get more in detail. I see there's some questions in the chat, so we'll slow down here.
Okay. Yeah. First one is, can you print payment confirmation for an entire batch?
Yeah. So you can download an entire batch of. So I'll show you. So if you come in, so you find your batches of your entire payment run under your imports, right? So I'm just looking at recent imports. If you wanted to see all of them, you could go over to the left here. And so this was our most recent import. And if you do view related payment requests, you can export this batch and it will include all of the processing details. So if this was a little further along and these said posted, if you exported this, it would show the status of every single payment and how it was processed and the date. That's more for like your own reconciling internally. Those PDFs are more for individual vendors that you might want to send payment to. You don't want to send them everyone's payment. You just want to show them theirs. But for your own internal reconciling, you can export this batch of data from that payment group, and it will have all of the confirmations, dates, and timestamps.
And then another one is, we currently use a payment processing company, but have to process virtual credit cards and checks separately.
Yeah.
You have this ability to do a single batch, but with multiple payment types.
That's right. That's exactly right. And that's our platform. So our platform is a single payment run. We don't split them out. You do one run and it does the parsing in our system. No vendors are marked in Workamajig as far as how the payment method is going to go out. Our system does the decisioning. So we do that so that we have the most current source of truth. So for example, if I'm in here and I see this immediate breakout of the payment methods, that's because our database knows the most current payment acceptance for those vendors. If you manage vendors separately, then you run into the risk of somebody manually having to manage that data by a human. And in this case, everyone's vendors are mapped to our global database. So you get the most current, decisioning and the most electronic payments as possible. Okay, and then the next one.
Yeah, the other one is, yeah.
It says, is there a canned report that shows credit card payments not cleared? What happens if it ages more than a week? Great question. So in our platform, if you go into your payment requests, I didn't show a lot of this because I wasn't sure exactly how much you guys wanted to see, but I see I'm getting some good questions here. So if you wanted to see anything that has not been processed, you can start by filtering some of the payments here. So in this case, if I was looking at, let's go with the virtual cards, which is what you were asking about, and I want to see cards that are still in a processing state or a delivered state, right? So let's say they went out the door, but they haven't been processed. That would be this status. This would give you all of the payments that have been delivered, meaning they're waiting for somebody to swipe them, but haven't been authorized or posted. It's very easy to navigate to. You can filter on your date range and only isolate what you're looking for. If you want to see things that are really aged, older, you can do that. But I will say the good news is that FastPay, part of our service and our product that we have, it's important that our customers get the payment service as part of the program. So when your payments go out the door, there's two things that happen. There is a team of people that make sure these payments get processed. That's not on the customer to manage the open payments for virtual cards. So we do our own aging where we will make sure your payments get processed. There is a system generated reminder, so that's built in. So within 48 hours, if that payment isn't getting processed, it does send a reminder. But if it ages beyond that, we have our team that is going to reach out personally and find out why that card has not been processed. A good chunk of our payments go through an automated process. A lot of these suppliers have they have portals, right, where that you need to make your payments for invoices and things like that. You would make that online. So we do all of that through our automated tool. That's called SitePay, and that's all automated. And at this point, we're up to almost 90% of all payments being automated, meaning there's no human interaction. They get processed end to end, which is great. So you're really only dealing with a smaller subset of a little over 10% of payments that might need a little extra like nudge to make sure that that gets processed. But we do have a way for you to manage that in the platform if you did want to see that at any given time.
Excellent. What is the cost of this? Oh, no, we'll leave that to, I said, if you guys have questions on pricing and things, we'll give you contact information for FastPay. So you can, obviously contact them directly and discuss terms. Okay.
And I can answer that because there's no cost. So I'll answer that. It is a program that earns what we call like revenue share rebate on the card program. That's where the sort of like the metrics come from. But as you said, reach out if you're interested in signing up. So this is all for the joint benefit of card processing, really.
Okay. Let's see. You did the canned report, right? For
Yep.
things that aren't cleared. Can an automated remittance email be sent to vendors?
Yes. So we manage all of the emails that get stored as far as which vendors need to be paid by card. And so we have that all stored in our database, and that is all automated. You don't have to manage any emails for credit card vendors anymore. So that's not something you would do with our program. We manage that all directly for you. When you go through onboarding, we exchange the vendor data. So if you might have a special contact for somebody, we can always append that. But most of the information that we have is for most vendors that are out in the space.
Okay. The next one is, do you have all three options for paying, or can we just choose one or the other, or, we can mix and match?
Yeah, so we like to use the full suite because we usually can get the most throughput with that. The enhanced ACH is usually best coupled with the virtual card program because usually it's vendors that maybe will not pay for card because card transactions can be a little pricey for the vendor side. So the enhanced ACH is usually a secondary option to that. But I mean, you can talk to our FastPay sales team to talk about what program might work best for you guys.
Let's see here. Do outbound emails say the company name or FastPay?
Yeah, another good question. So they do come from our FastPay centralized inbox. However, it does have your company information on there. I can see if I can find one. I usually have one on my desktop in case this question comes up.
Yeah. So the outbound would say, FastPay, but it might say FastPay payment.
Well, the email says FastPay, but it clearly identifies in the company paying. It'll say your company name, your address, because it's all your remittance information that's associated with the card that's going to be processed. It's not FastPay, right? It's you guys.
Right.
And then the next one says, does the customer receive a rebate for virtual cards? Yes, in our program that we have, there is a rebate that is associated with cards.
Do we need to get all the ACH information on vendors, or are you handling that side?
Yeah, so we offer an enhanced ACH product, which means suppliers have contracted with FastPay to participate because they get a portal very much like this one, where they can see all of their payments and they get direct deposits and they get special and customized reporting. And so they opt into our program. So our enhanced ACH program is managed by us. Any ACHs that you're going to send out directly from your bank to a supplier would be managed by you. That's not something that's managed in our product.
Okay. Right. So, but if they're not part of your program, right, then we would need the ACH information, or you're going to reach out to them and say, hey, would you want to belong to this?
Yeah. So so for standard ACH, that's not really something that we put through this program because we have the enhanced ACH program. So we typically just deal in those 3 buckets that I showed at the beginning, right? So our 3 buckets that we're really handling is virtual cards, checks, and our enhanced ACHs. If any, like sort of, for lack of a better term, sort of free ACH that you're going to send out of band, that you would do yourself.
Right. But I think the idea is that they obviously would want to get them into that. So if there's a vendor that you're not contracted with, you're going to try and reach out and get them
correct.
in. Okay. Or like she said, you'll have to, handle that ACH yourself or pick a different payment method.
Right.
So what about vendors who are now charge a fee for processing credit cards?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. So there are obviously vendors that charge processing fees. Most of our customers don't opt in to pay percentage fees because they'd rather have the benefit of earning, some of that rebate on the card. And if you have somebody that's charging a percentage flat fee, then it doesn't earn anything and it ends up being a cost to send the payment that way. If it's a convenience and you want to do that, you of course can do that, and our system can manage fees that way. We do also have a couple vendors that charge flat fees, which are much more palatable, $20 or $25. Some of our customers opt into that because you end up earning more revenue than the flat fee is valued at. So those ones are usually worth turning on, but we go over that during your implementation. We would look at your vendor list, match it against our database, and we would provide you a list of subset vendors that say, hey, these ones charge fees. Let us know if you want us to turn these quote unquote on, and we can let them go out on cards. If you're not interested in that, then obviously we wouldn't turn those on, and those would go out as checks. Or if they joined the FastPay network because they wanted a reduced cost, they could do that as well.
Okay. What if we ACH freelancers, right? What does it cost that person per transaction? I'm not sure if that Robert, if your question, sorry.
Yeah, I think what's meant by this is, so look, if you load your payments into our platform, we do the heavy lifting of mailing them out the door, right? So if we can get them on card, great. If we can't get them on card, then it's going to go out as a check, or we can talk to them about a reduced rate for the enhanced ACH. It's like a direct deposit, right? So some of the smaller vendors actually prefer the FastPay network because it's much cheaper than taking a card, but it's still electronic, which is what they're looking for.
Okay. I think, again, if a vendor prefers not to use enhanced CH, doesn't take credit cards, they will be paid by check by default. And again, I believe that's your setting to say, pay these guys by check.
Right, correct.
Right. So, can we find? Okay. And what vendors are a part of it? Again, there, Lisa, you're saying we have a bunch of small vendors and some don't accept credit cards. So again, I think and they may not be able to opt into the enhanced. So again, there's always going to be the print check, I guess.
Right. And so that's what we're taking the weight off of the customer, right? You guys. So you as a company can just issue one batch of payments and let us handle the decisioning of how the payment can get to the vendor. Obviously, the fallback is always a mailing of a check, which you have in Workamajig, you have that information stored. And then we'll work with your vendor pool to try to get them into an electronic payment, whether that's virtual card or FastPay network.
Okay. And where do you mail the checks from? So again, I'm sure it's coming out
Yep.
of a centralized location.
Yep,
If you
it is.
talked
Yep,
about
they're
it.
out of Colorado.
And the checks would just be like from FastPay Bank type of thing?
No,
Is
so
that the,
this is, so what makes it easy for checks is that we actually just print and mail checks on the customer's behalf. So when you sign up for our program, we set up, it's your bank account, and we just print and mail them with your routing and your account number. You would approve a check proof. And if you need multiple signatures on certain amounts of checks, we can do that all digitally. But we don't move money into an account and then mail out some checks or anything like that. It's literally just taking over the printing and mailing burden from you guys. You still manage those exactly as you would. They just mail out from Colorado instead of mailing out from wherever your office is. And you would still manage those checklists. We do have positive pay files for those that are interested in that. So you can use those with your bank to ensure that those check numbers are the ones that you want to get cashed. But you would reconcile your cash checks just like you normally would, and you would work off of your check numbering sequence that you already have. It's your check number, your bank account, your accounting number.
okay. And again, I think, again, another kind of a repeat question, do we solicit all the vendors of choices for the choice of payments? Is that, I guess, asking, are you guys going to do that for them? Or they need to
Yeah,
kind of
so
contact them and say, hey, this is
sure.
the way we want to do it?
Yeah. When you sign up, we take all your vendor list and we match it against our database. And if they're already part of our known network, right? Because these guys, if they're on virtual card, that's not, we don't sell them that, right? Like that's already a business decision, right? When you go out and you purchase something at a store, like they already have a terminal to accept payment that way. So we just have a list that we've culled over the years that has a really high acceptance rate for credit card accepting vendors. So those we don't have to reach out to again and say, oh, we have a new company that's joined, we're going to pay you this way too. We generally don't have to do that, right? They're already a known acceptor. So that usually takes on the brunt of it. If it's somebody that does not take credit card, and we know that, like we've already asked if they had a terminal to accept cards, then we would opt into the second choice, which would say, are you interested in taking an electronic payment at a reduced cost, which is FastPay Network, right? So we would try to do that. We do work with our customers if you want to do like some sort of campaign or a strategic approach, or maybe you know somebody. Oftentimes your vendors or suppliers will reach out to you and say, I'd like to get paid via ACH. How do I do that? And you would just loop us in and say, FastPay can set you up, right? That's usually what works the best for us too, as well.
And then the reconcile, how do we reconcile all of this?
Yeah.
And again, reconciling back to Workamajig.
Yep. And I'm actually going to pick a different account because this demo account doesn't have the reconciliation data. Good thing I have lots of them. So I'm going to pull up a second account, but the short answer is yes, right? So we have reconciliation data that we provide in the platform that you can use to reconcile your payments, right? So I'm going to log into this demo. I'm going to reshare. Let me just make sure I have them in here. I do.
And so because I would say because we're sending these individual payments to them, when we reconcile that bank account in Workamajig, we see those individual ones as well. So again, in your account reconciling Workamajig, again, I don't see a difference being made. You're still being able to see, what payments cleared, so you can clear those out of our reconcile.
That's exactly right. Yep. So at every payment batch that goes out gets broken into those different payment methods that we outlined, right? So we have those different payment methods. And for the checks, as we said, those go out the door. You reconcile those the same way that you typically would with the check numbers and waiting for those checks to clear with your bank statements or however you typically bring in that information. For the enhanced ACH, which is the FastPay network, and for VCC bank reconciliation, which are the credit cards, those ones we give you broken out information regarding these payments that come out. I'm not going to pull the actual file. I think it will take a little longer, but it will give you a breakdown of all the payments that were paid And when you download the file, it's got all of the information related to the payment itself. So it'll have the check number, it'll have the vendor, it's got the date it was processed, it's got all that information nicely wrapped up in a package for you. It's very clean and very easy to use. And like I said, it's broken out by payment method. And then also, if this was a live example, you would also have positive pay as well.
Okay. Oh, well, they are coming in. Can you get over the cost?
Yeah. So
how's the
there's
cost
no
passed on to the vendors?
Yeah. So to talk about any vendor that has decided to accept cards, that's their own thing, right? Again, like just any store that you go into that is sort of like a cost of doing business. It's not specifically for you that they're paying a cost to take cards. That's them. So we don't charge them anything for cards. That's just between them and their what's called a merchant processor, which is how they process cards. So we don't have anything to do with that. That's just something that happens. Because we have a relationship with MasterCard that earns this sort of cashback program, which is just like you see on TV, but at a business level, there is some revenue to be earned back from that, which is why we participate with card payments. So it's totally because of the ease of use, the efficiencies that are gained, why they're taking these cards and why they're willing to do that as a cost to take those cards. On the enhanced ACH, very similar program. We have multiple vendors that are in that program because they want a more efficient way to accept payments from everyone, not just you. So it's not like we're charging them something to pay them for you. It's they're opting into a larger program called FastPay Network that they'll come in. So that's how that process works.
Okay. Now we have a question.
Virtual cards, is there a rebate program? Yeah. Yes, there's definitely a rebate program.
And then the second one is in Workamajig, or the next one is in our system, we can set up a bank account that would be, for FastPay. And that may be one of your setup methods. But again, they're saying, well, we have two different offices with two different accounts.
Yep.
Are you able to do that? Basically pull in different reports, I guess, is what we'd be doing for the API. And that basically absolutely differentiates here.
Yeah, 100%. You can have as many as you want. And in our system, again, this is my demo environment, so it doesn't really have a lot of the sort of bells and whistles that I would have on like a really robust account. But typically we have an additional field that's called a bank account group. And if you have multiple offices, a lot of our customers obviously have multiple offices. They have multiple sub companies that they need to pay out of. You can do it two ways. You can have different logins if you want to keep it truly siloed and have a different login for each of these accounts, or you could have it under one, which would be a different bank account group. And that would be identified when the batch comes over. So when the batch comes over from Workamajig, it's based on that cash account that was defined. So you could have one that's for, your Philly location, and you could have another one for the Denver location. And that's clearly identified in the batch that comes over. And that's how we define it, and it gets deposited. We have multiple customers on Workamajig that do that.
What's not separate office? I think we had this one before. What does FastPay charge agencies to utilize virtual cards? Nothing. I believe I heard that. Nothing. So it's kind of the vendor basically sponsoring it, right?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. So like the way that our program works is that there is some sort of rebate incentive. So that's what sort of keeps the lights on at FastPay, and how we build all of this technology is based on that revenue that we earn off of the electronic payments. On the check payments, which is the next question that somebody asked, which is there a cost to the vendor for check payments? And no, that goes out snail mail just as you typically would. We do typically charge a flat rate for the check payments. But that can maybe be negotiated in depending on how many of your vendors are electronically paid, right? That's kind of, part of this process is that we have to do the check payments. We don't love doing check payments, but we will. Our process is to get as many electronic as possible. So there's lots to be worked out there from a check payment perspective. Okay. You always earn way more on the revenue and the rebate from the cash back on the cards than you would for check payments. It's always in the green is the way we look at it.
Okay. And so because again, you're the postage cost. So if I went direct pure
Right.
check, print checks, you'd probably charge because you have postage
Exactly.
that's going to be, and plus the paper, the check stock.
Yeah.
It has to be used. So let's see, if we submit every Friday a list of invoices to be paid, what is the turnaround time for, well, I guess that would be true anytime.
Yeah,
What's the
that's a good,
turnaround time?
yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so the payments that come through into our platform are evaluated right away. There's no delay. It just comes in, we make the decision. And if you approve those and those go out the door, for our credit card program, again, I could talk about this for hours and we don't have hours for this demo. There's multiple types of funding that you could do for the card payments. Typically, we get most customers on a funding model that allows those cards to go out by 4 o'clock each day. So they'll come into our system, they'll get evaluated, and the cards will be dispatched at 4 o'clock every day. And most of them get processed right away because of the automation that I mentioned earlier. So those are going to go and get processed immediately. From there, if you have any that are on the enhanced ACH program, that process would also start at 4 o'clock or 4:30, where we're going to start the movement of the funds for the ACH payments. That process would start at that time. Checks typically they would get into the mail stream if the file is in by 11 o'clock Eastern. This is all Eastern time, by the way. If they're in by 11 o'clock Eastern, then they'll be in the mail stream that day. If it's after 11, then they get into the mail stream by 11 a.m. Eastern the next day. So everything's mailed pretty quickly or sent out electronically same day. So there's really not a lot of delay. The fastest way for vendors to get paid is electronically, which is what we push for.
And does that include Sundays, or I guess Saturdays and Sundays?
Saturdays, yes, for getting them into the system. Same thing with Sundays. Like you can issue payments
It's in the
at
system.
any time.
Yeah.
So it's an electronic system. So any payments can be issued. But typically the next processing day is a Monday. So weekends can accept information in, and they'll just be held until the processing time on Monday.
Makes sense. So it's more like bank hours.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. The next one is I'm taking this is for your virtual card, and they're talking about using, basically, online. So Google, probably Facebook also is kind of doing this, where they're just dinging your card incessantly.
That's a great question. And we do have that solution as well. I guess I could show it on here if I unshare. I have so many different logins, but we do have what we call card management, which allows for a card to be created that can be swiped multiple times. The cards that we've been talking about are cards that are sent for one specific amount, for one specific payment that gets swiped one time, right? That's what makes it a single-use virtual card. But for a card that you're talking about with charges that you want to just store and save, that's something that we use with our card management module. And our card management module allows you to create cards as needed. It's completely customizable. And you can allow that card to be stored and lodged and swiped many, many, many times. So that is a great use for multi-swipe cards. You can use that also for any overhead costs. If you want to create a card for, maybe T&E or a particular a department card, maybe your IT department needs a card, you want to be able to manage those transactions, you can send that to a particular team to be processed. And then from a reconciliation standpoint, because you're creating individual cards, you then can pull out the transaction data and reconcile that on each individual card number. So you don't have to use like a hard plastic card that has many, many swipes on it for many, many different things, and then go, oh, how am I classifying that? Is that for a particular advertiser, or is that for, somebody went out for lunch? Like it gets mixed in together, whereas our product allows you to create siloed cards to keep the charges neat and orderly.
And then bringing back those back into Workamajig would I believe is a CSV file that we can bring into either the connector screen or as a credit card charge, so you can kind of handle that and then pay the credit card.
Exactly. That's the good part about working with Workamajig, is that, you guys have been really great in being able to accept the data back. And so we can build literally anything from a report to sending data back through API, like whatever we want to do to get information back into Workamajig system, we can do that. So a lot of our customers, opt to create secondary reports that they then pull in.
Well, they're asking, I guess this is within your system, to have dual approvals. So I have the payment and it sends it off to somebody else, probably by default, but is there an ability to have it kind of route a couple of times?
Yep, that's exactly right. Yep, we can have dual approvals. We kind of classify it as one person that's an approver and another person that we call like a releaser. So you can come in and you can have one person manage the data that comes in and just check off that and say approved. And as soon as they hit approve, an email goes to the final approver and they can be prompted to log in and release. You can have multiples. It is siloed. So you have a sort of a separation of church and state, right? Where you can have somebody that can be both an approver and a releaser, but they can't do the same task. So if you need people to have multiple roles, we handle that as well.
Okay.
And then before you, I don't know if there's any more yet, but I'm going to reshare my screen just to show you that card management area, because I think that that's important if that's a question that someone asked, which is, so we were in the regular console and then we were looking at our submitted individual payments. But in this platform, you can see I also have card management, which allows me to create these individual cards and manage them one by one. So here I see the individual card that I've created. I can pull the card info in my system here. It's secure, so it's not going to expose it on the screen, but you can copy that and then you can paste that directly into the module that you need to store it in. You can also export that card data or export any of the transactions associated with that. You can set cycle limits. So let's say it's something that you want to, Google was a good example, being able to say, hey, I want to process a certain amount at a time, and I want to use this amount monthly. There's also emails. If you're getting close to your balance, it'll let you know when you're within 10% so that you can come in here and maybe make a change. You can edit this data at any time, and you can see live activity if you need to. These are all customizable, so you can create what we call card types. So you can move through and create and say, oh, these are my media cards. They might have different information like campaign and client, but then I also may have internal department cards where they're stored at particular vendors. I might want to have particular notes. Some people go as far as putting in different identifiers that are going to map back to Workamajig. So if it's something that you've stored specifically and you want to use that set of data to store that back, you can do that as well.
Maybe it'd be helpful if can you put your email into the chat? And that, because we're getting a lot of questions about comparisons and things like that. And so we didn't, that's not really this topic here. So Melissa, if you could just drop your email address maybe into the chat box. So
yeah, let me find out the email. I mean, I could shop my own, but I'm wondering if I should do an email.
Or sales ad or,
Right. Let me ask.
Okay.
I'm going to get the email. Oh, I think Teresa is slacking me right now. Perfect. Sales. Oh, see, I could have guessed that. Sales, Echo FastPay. Okay. So yeah, so it's going to our sales team that can take care of that right away. So I just put that email in there. I could talk all day why FastPay against others, but we went over a lot of things in our platform that we feel is superior to other providers that are out there. Our process is typically stronger. Our integration that we have here with Workamajig is clean. It's a single batch process, which is also very clean. And our functionality in our product is pretty dead on when it comes to what you need when it comes to processing electronic payments and the like.
All right. Let's see. Any more questions? I think that's, that was super. Thank you very much for your time, Melissa. Truly appreciate that.
I hope we got them all.
Yeah. I'll give a couple more seconds if anybody has further questions. Again, this will, while you were thinking, this will be uploaded into our help guide into the webinar section either later today or tomorrow. Again, we'll edit it and we also put it up onto YouTube as well.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
again, if you guys have any further questions, the attendees, if you have any further questions, support@workamajig.com. Your account manager is happy to help you. Again, if you have specific questions to FastPay, sales@gofastpay.com. And they'll be happy to take care of you as well.
Yeah, I see a couple more here, so I'm going to take them while we have it. And it says, how long does it take to onboard this program? Will onboarding disrupt our current workflow? Another good question. Onboarding typically takes, depending on your size and the intricacies, if you have multiple bank accounts, things like that, could take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. It's not very long. Mostly it's just kind of paperwork getting set up, and then you would be into the system. As far as your disruption, as far as your process goes, one day you're processing payments like you normally would, and then the next day you process payments with our platform. Our integration with Workamajig, as far as the setup is concerned, I know we glossed over that because we didn't really want to spend a lot of time talking about the behind the curtains look, but it is a one-day setup. There's not, you don't have to wait for any back and forth. Workamajig has some really, really clean, nice to use API calls. You basically turn those on, allow access, we connect, and then you're off to the races, and you just start cutting payments out of that cash account. That is it. It is very simple. It's easy to use. And then the next one, to make sure I heard correctly, the person that submits the invoice to be paid cannot be the person to approve the payments. Is that correct? If you want that, we have that rigidity. If that's something you need to say, I want the person who submits the invoices or payments not to be the person that can be released, we can turn that on. If you're like, no, I'm a one-person show and I don't want any extra approvals, I've already done that all internally, then we don't have to turn that on. But that functionality is there for you to use if you need it.
And again, your email address is sales with an S @gofastpay.com. Said something. So again, that was in the chat box.
Yeah, somebody's noticing how fast I talk. That's right. I do talk very, very fast.
No worries. Sometimes you're just trying to cover ground. So
I just re-chatted it in the to the entire chat, so you guys all have that. sales@gofastpay.com.
Okay.
Great. Anything else? I'm really happy that everybody was really engaged and asked a lot of good questions. Sometimes because I do talk fast and I move through these things fast because I know them really well. And this is a product that, I've been here a long time and I really support. It's old hat for me, right? I go through this and I think everybody's kind of with me. So I'm really glad that you guys were able to ask a lot of good questions and follow along. So I really hope that you guys reach out and can get more information on our offering. And thanks again for Workamajig. You guys have been awesome to work with, really great partners, and we're happy that you guys got to see this.
Thank you. And then from our side, again, this is our first in our, hopefully a series of these. FastPay was kind enough to be involved in this. And again, we're trying to do more webinars for our third-party providers. So FastPay was kind of the guinea pig in this, and we truly thank them for taking part. Again, a lot of great questions. I think you showed us some neat tricks and a very nice integration. So thank you very much for your time. And again, thank you everybody that attended. We appreciate your time for that as well. And again, any questions you have, please send us a note at support@workamajig.com. Okay. And I believe that was the last one.
Awesome.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you guys again and have a great rest of the day and talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.